Hello dear YouTuber friends, and I do hope you're all keeping well. Welcome to this new video. Doesn't that look stunning? This is Back to Basics part 47, my aircraft progression guide. Which aircraft to start off with and to get familiar with, and then perhaps master. And once you've done that, which aircraft would you then progress to learn more about the sim and more about complex aircraft familiarity, that type of thing. So nice and simple, my aircraft progression guide, starting with basics and then advancing to more advanced aircraft. Okay, let's not dilly-dally, let's get on with this video. Now, in my opinion, the best aircraft to start flying with in Microsoft Flight Sim and getting used to the sim is the humble Cessna 172, the default Cessna 172 that's available for everybody who owns Microsoft Flight Sim. As some of you will be saying, no, surely Hudson, the 152 with the classic dial aircraft is the best aircraft to start with. That's a good argument, but I believe the Cessna 172 is the best contender. Yes, it's digital readout, it's digital functionality with your vertical speed, your airspeed and altitude, that type of thing, but it has fully functional autopilot capabilities and much more than that. You know, you've got this map view where you can set up your course. Let's just put it into nav mode there. I'm actually going to have to come with my heading mode to the left there just so it can intercept the magenta line. Fully functional autopilot capabilities and so much more you can do with this. You can set up a flight plan from scratch. Go and look at my Back to Basics series. I've done a video on how to set up a flight plan from scratch using these G1000. These are powerful units and they're important to get used to if you want to learn autopilot functionality. No doubt many of you know this if you've watched my Back to Basic videos already. I've featured the G1000 in many of those videos. Very easy. Let's just take it off autopilot. Very easy aircraft to fly and maintain and trim out. Not very powerful. Let me just bring back my throttle. I was over revving the engine too much there. Not very difficult to master. Not very powerful either. But mastering these G1000s and the autopilot functionality will take some time. And it's a lot of fun doing so. Do let me know your thoughts on that below. Which do you think is the best starter aircraft? This is the one I started in when I started flying Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. First flight was in a Cessna 172 and I was absolutely amazed. Loved the fidelity of the G1000 and the cockpit in general. For a default aircraft, I think it's fantastic. Yep, in my opinion, the best starter aircraft, and there's a lot to master with these G1000s. So there you go. Let's move on to the next aircraft. So once you've somewhat mastered the Cessna 172, and maybe even the 152 as well, the next best step up, in my opinion, would be the Cessna 182 by Coronado. Fantastic aircraft. I'll link my review I did of this down below in the description. One of the big differences here, it's got a retractable landing gear. The RG stands for retractable gear. Look at that animation. Absolutely fantastic. Classic dial aircraft, and I do feel it's important to get used to aircraft with classic dials like this to see what the aircraft's doing. It's typically a sort of a traditional way of flying. So you've got your vertical speed indicator here. As you can see, I'm in a slight climb. My altitude indicator and airspeed, and full autopilot functionality. Put autopilot on. and put it into heading mode. And I can alter my vertical speed by, let's say, 300 feet per minute. That's fine to get to 1,100 feet as I've got set in here. It's a little bit tricky, it's different from the Cessna 172. Has many manual elements to this aircraft as well. I'll explain that in a moment. And it's got a GNS 530 by default for both Xbox and PC. Not as good as the G1000, but it's different and something that you should master as well. And you can alter your comm frequencies and your nav frequencies and goodness knows what's here. And all different types of things. Like I said, it's got a few manual elements to this aircraft. So say I've got a frequency set up to land at Heathrow Airport. Well, let's just turn to the left here. Just under autopilot control, just altering my heading bug, which is down here. Setting up for an approach to Heathrow Airport. You set up your approach here, set up your frequencies, but you have to manually alter your course select, which alters the lines here. To set up your lines so they're all set up. Say I'm setting up for runway 27, should have gone the other way, but that's fine. It'll be about 271 or something of that sort. You'll have to look them up on charts. But then it will alter the lines and the course deviation line, of course, so you're all set up properly. And even your glide slope indicators will come up with little dots. Like I said, a little bit trickier to master than the Cessna 172. As you can see though, you get a fair bit more power out of this aircraft, so you can get from A to B a lot quicker. And it's just the perfect next step. Not too difficult. Let's take it off autopilot. Very easy to fly and trim out. You've just got to be aware of that power. If I want to get my gear down, I'm going to have to, say, put my throttle down to 50% or so. Keep myself, I don't want to climb there, keep myself at level flight. Slow my speed down to about 120, which will be around here or so. So let me just level out, just to give you an example. And then I can put my gear down at a safe speed and then go into flaps. Still trimming out slightly. Altering my speed. And in fact, around any time there is a safe speed to put my gear down. And then I can go into flaps. Again, watching my trim. Like I said, with the classic dials, a little bit more tricky to master if you're not used to them, but it is important to get used to them, and many different sorts of manual elements to this aircraft. That's a good one to master after the Cessna 172. So there you go, that's the Cessna 182 by Carinado. Let's bring my gear up. Let's go on to the next step. So we come to the next aircraft on my progression list, which is the wonderful Vision Jet. If you've learnt the other aircraft on this list and you want a bit more of a challenge, you can't go far wrong with this wonderful Vision Jet. Keep in mind, this is available currently on the marketplace. You do have to buy this, but it will become a default aircraft in Flight Sim 2024, which is just a couple of months away now in November. So if you're looking to upgrade to Flight Sim 2024, you may or may not want to hold off on this one. I still believe this is still worth a purchase now. If we jump into the cockpit, bring my view down to this view. Vision Jet uses the G3000 touch screens. So I can click on a charts page here, for example. I've got a chart up for Birmingham, which is my destination, so I can put in my ILS frequencies and goodness knows what. I can put that back on map and have it as full screen, and goodness knows what. There's a whole load to learn with these G3000s if you've not used them before, and they are more advanced than the starter aircrafts. Things like your comm frequencies and nav frequencies, you can dial them in directly using the touchscreen here and transfer them, and goodness knows what. I've done videos on the Vision Jet in my Back to Basics series. The playlist is linked down below in the description. If you don't know the Vision Jet, wonderful, as you can hear from the name there, wonderful little jet aircraft. Almost as fast as some airliners out there, so you can do cross-country or overseas flights on this quite easily, and an absolutely fantastic aircraft to learn and to become proficient with. So there you go, that's the next aircraft on my progression list, the wonderful Vision Jet. So when you've mastered the rest, jump into the best. This is the A2A Comanche. An absolutely wonderful, living, breathing aircraft. Classic dials again, and offers so much more. This feels, for all intents and purposes, like you are really flying an aircraft. Quite tricky to master. Does have autopilot functionality, but it's very different to anything else you've encountered, and you will have to read the manual. It's very much a study level aircraft, and you will also have to maintain the aircraft different surfaces and goodness knows what. Make sure that they're all, inspect them and make sure that they're all working and they're all in green, that type of thing, before you take off. You can actually go around and inspect each part of it. I'll link my review I did of this down below in the description as well. Flying in manual mode at the moment, and like I said, for all intents and purposes, feels that bit more realistic than any other aircraft. Like I said, study level aircraft, so you will have to refer to the manual to master this one and understand what's going on with the aircraft surfaces, and how to maintain level flights and how to bring yourself in for a landing. You're going to have to predict. I'm coming up to runway 9 at London City there. I'm already predicting my airspeed. I've got my throttle down to 40%. Just put myself back into level flight. I want to get my speed down to there. You'll have to predict the aircraft well before you get lined up with your runway. Here's the trim wheel, so as I'm trimming out on my controller, you can see you can actually manually adjust this. Oops, didn't want to do that now. I've messed up my aircraft. No, it's fine. A lot to learn with this aircraft, and it's a lot of fun. Many people's favourite for a reason. It's just the fidelity of the flight model. You really have to give this one a try if you haven't already. And yet, like I said, next step up, probably after you've mastered all the rest of the GA aircraft, jump into this one, study the manual, and then master this one, and you are gonna have a whale of a time. Like I said, just keep an eye on all the different parts and mechanics of the aircraft. Make sure they're all well maintained, because you will be crashing and burning otherwise. Anyway, I'm going to bring myself in for a landing at runway 9. Let's jump on to the next aircraft. Okay, so we get to the last and ultimate step for many people. It's learning how to fly airliners. Purely optional. If airliners are not your thing, then you're not going to be interested in this. Many people are, like the A320neo version 2 here, as you can see, a default aircraft for both Xbox and PC pilots. But if we jump into that cockpit, there's a whole load you have to learn. I'm going to be candid. I've not learnt to fly this particular aircraft properly yet. I've not studied it. I've not studied the manual or different videos that are on YouTube. Must do it. I'm more partial to the 146 Professional. That's something I'm quite proficient at. But I had to learn and study the manual, and really it took me many hours to get proficient with that aircraft, and it will for you too if you want to learn to fly airliners. Things like typing in your route into the MCDU here, learning how to program in the autopilot with the central panel here, and goodness knows what. Very automated aircraft, and it's the ultimate step for many people. Gotta say again, it's purely optional on whether you want to learn to fly airliners or not. But there you go, people, that's my guide, my progression guide, starting from simple basic aircraft and progressing up to more advanced aircraft. Let me know your thoughts on that down below in the comments. Do you have your own suggestions for an aircraft progression guide? Again, let us know down in the comments. Do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon.